Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nicky and I'm joined as always by the man who I am honoured to have recorded 100 episodes of this podcast with. It's Greg. How are you today, buddy?
I'm very well. I thought you were going to say I'm joined by the man who likes to take girls up the country park. I was braced for it.
No, it's our 100th episode. I'm being nice. I'm not going to say anything nasty. I'm not going to rinse you. I'll save that for the next episode.
Okay.
I'm being nice. 100 episodes, Greg.
I know.
We've made it. It's 100 episodes.
Seems like, it does not seem like I've sat at the computer watching you on the screen 100 times recording a podcast. It's crackers.
It's actually, we've done more than 100 because we did the one I put out as a bonus and then there was the preview, but I think it's 100 proper episodes that we've done. So I think this is a very good, it's good to have the 100 in. So yeah, fantastic. Yeah, everything good with you?
All's well, although I have to confess to having been a bit traumatised the other day. So
why?
So I'm not a massive user of Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter. But the other day, and I'm not proud of this, right? But in my For You feed, a picture of some actress or something came up, and it said in the caption, "Have you seen her tape yet?" So, like a fool, I clicked on the comments, and Twitter has become a place. Now, bearing in mind that I live in a country where, Islamic law, they're very, very strict about what they let you see, even in the content, even in the confines of your own home. If you want to watch something a bit grown up, you have to have a VPN, right? Not on Twitter. Hardcore pornography, mate. And I'm not exaggerating. Now, I'm a man of the world. I can deal with a bit of hardcore pornography. What I struggle to deal with is a threesome with two guys and a girl, not really operating the way that you may have accidentally seen pornography with two guys and a girl. More a girl and a guy on a guy. So I've had to turn my Twitter account off of my app. So now I've only got the Culture Swally Twitter account open because, of course, because I dipped a toe in that filthy water, my feed was full of posts by an account called "Try Not to Get a Boner," right? Which it's just hardcore homemade pornography. And probably a bit of sneaky homemade pornography where the lady engaged in it maybe doesn't really know that she's being filmed. You know what I mean? So I've had to turn it off.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try not to get a boner.
Try not. Yeah.
Did you?
I did turn it off. I was sitting on the sofa next to my daughter. But
is the volume up?
No. The footage of the two guys and a girl, the account stuck in my mind because it was called Freckles Couple. And you have to take my word. We'll just have to take their word for it that they got freckles because they don't show their faces.
Okay.
The only part of their bodies they don't show, I might add. But yeah, I only watched it for like a few seconds before I turned it off. But yeah, they should have to change the name from X to X-rated.
This is our 100th episode and you've chosen to use this as your little Ronnie Corbett monologue at the start.
It was either this or the fecal implant story.
Okay, yeah. Let's move on then. Okay. Yeah, I don't think. Be careful what you're clicking on there. Greg.
Yeah,
I think that's a bit of a worry that you're clicking on stuff things, especially when you're sat next to your dog.
Yeah, I should know better.
I've got some more questions for you, but I'll ask you once we've finished recording about that.
Okay.
Now, I think before we start the episode and go into the news and what we're going to be talking about later, I was very saddened when I woke up earlier this week and had a text message from you telling me that Brian McCarty had passed away. And I guess we're one for one now, because I think I broke the news to you about Robbie Coltrane, so you've broken the news to me about Brian McCarty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really upset when I read that. It was the first thing I read when I woke up. Grabbed my phone to see what the time was and just saw your text message. And yeah, I was gutted. And such a shame that he's passed away. And such a wonderful actor as well. Just a Scottish icon, really.
Yeah, I mean, and just prolific. I mean, I've got his... You always know that somebody's been in a lot of things when you open the Wikipedia page and it says selected filmography, because there's just too many things to list. But yeah, just a prolific actor, and maybe best known perhaps for playing the mysterious Tommy in Line of Duty in the first a couple of series of Line of Duty. I think in the first series you only really hear his voice until I think you see him toward the end, and just in the voice he's just an absolutely brilliant gravelly Scottish voice, absolutely brilliant. I mean, one of my favourite roles of his is as Dave Mackay in The Damned United, like the footballer Dave Mackay. He's really, and it was so unexpected because he's been in quite a few things over the last kind of couple of years. He's been doing Outlander. He did the I always forget the name of it, but the one where Sean Bean's in jail and Stephen Graham plays the warden. Time, that's it. He plays a really, really good character in that.
He's one of his last roles is a film that we'd spoken about maybe doing, is that new Samuel L. Jackson film, Damaged. Which apparently is fucking terrible, but we'll maybe pick it at some point on the Swally. But yeah, that was one of his last roles. I think we've only covered him 5 times on the Swally. So we did Crime, Series 2. We did Rob Roy, Filth, For Those in Peril, and Hello Ladies, of course. When he's only in 2 scenes, but he fucking steals the show.
Yeah,
those 2 scenes as the desk sergeant. And yeah, I agree. As I have in my notes here, Dave Mackay, Damned United, Line of Duty, Time with Sean Bean. And he reached the pinnacle of Scottish actors. He was in 5 episodes of Taggart, playing 4 different characters. Which is a mark of a true great Scottish actor.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. When the summer holidays got to get paid for, send the agent down to the Taggart casting offices. There's one that he was in that I was trying to find, but it's a bit hard to find because it's been remade in the US, but it's almost like 20 years old now. It's set in Edinburgh, called Low Winter Sun, and he stars with Andrew Strong, the English actor. Is it Andrew Strong? I think it is Andrew. No, Andrew Strong's off The Commitments, isn't it? It's Mark Strong. Mark Strong, yeah. He stars with him where they play 2 sort of corrupt detectives. It's a wee bit, there's sort of shades of the sort of Irvin Welsh universe through it. It was really good, but it's been remade in the US, and Mark Strong made the US remake, but unfortunately Brian didn't make it. But I've only seen it once. I watched it I think Channel 4 showed it. It was really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. All right, leave it with me. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah.
2006 film. Yeah.
Yeah. TV.
Okay.
It's like sort of made for TV. Cause I think Channel 4 did it in a 2-parter. I think
it's a decent. Yeah, it's got Burt Kwok, Paul Higgins, John Sessions.
Yeah. But of course, I mean, I think Brian, for us, perhaps one of our sort of joint favourite roles is as the original Doogie Gilman in Filth with McAvoy.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think, he was fantastic in that. And he was great in Series 2 of Crime as well. Yeah, really. Just a wonderful actor and, a really sad loss. So, I was really upset at the news, but unfortunately. But we will always be able to watch his performances, and we've got those. So
absolutely.
Right. Shall we have a look at what's been happening in Scotland over the last couple of weeks, Greg?
For the 100th time, cue the jingle.
It's not really for the 100th time, because I don't think we had the jingle until about episode 4 or 5.
Yeah, that just occurred to me there after, as the words were leaving my mouth, but it was too late.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, Greg, what have you seen in the news over the last couple of weeks in Scotland that has caught your eye?
Well, I mean, there seems to be, over the last few months, obviously we scour the Scottish press for Swally-centric stories, and there seems to have been a lot of stories about just people making life miserable for fellow plane passengers. They always, and the planes always seem to leave from Glasgow Airport for some reason. I've always sort of resisted picking them, but I chose this one just because the headline really gave me a chuckle. So it's from the Scottish Sun. Last week, and the headline reads, "Plane wrong. Glasgow EasyJet passengers chant, 'Cheerio, cheerio,' as rowdy couple hauled off plane by cops after sparking chaos on the flight. The pair forced the aircraft, which left Glasgow, to make an emergency landing in Greece after they kicked off. Shocked passengers told how the pair were arguing with other passengers on the Egypt-bound flight before they turned their vile behaviour toward the cabin crew. Staff tried to get the pair to sit down by making announcements over the tannoy, but were eventually forced to step in. One passenger said the pair started threatening aircrew before the pilots were forced to make an emergency landing. Passenger Michael McLennan told the Daily Record, "It was awful. They were arguing with other passengers for half an hour before the crew stepped in. They were being verbally abusive and threatening to the cabin crew. They eventually announced we were doing an emergency landing in Greece. The woman was told to sit down 7 times over the tannoy as we landed, but she kept getting up. The plane diverted to Niko Kazantzakis International Airport in Heraklion on Crete. Greek cops then boarded the plane and hauled the loutish couple off before the plane made its way to Egypt. As officers took them off the aircraft, their fellow passengers celebrated their removal as they erupted into cheers and chants of "Cheerio, cheerio," and "Na na na na, na 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 na. Goodbye, goodbye." Just brilliant. Yeah, so that really gave me a chuckle. But there seems to have been just a lot of this going on of late, but I can only imagine the couple sobering up quite quickly when a couple of burly Greek polis got on the plane. Have you ever seen somebody kick off in an aeroplane?
No, I haven't seen anyone kick off. The only thing I've really seen was I was flying back from... I must have been flying back from Glasgow to Dubai. And
of course,
there was. What do you mean, of course?
Well, if it's going to kick off, the plane's leaving Glasgow, right?
That's true, but it wasn't that bad. There was 3 guys sitting in the aisle next to me. It looked like a father and 2 sons, but like the father must have been in his 70s. The 2 sons were probably in their 30s. And as soon as it started taxiing, the guy that was sat in the middle was just clinging to the headrest in front of him, shaking, and got off, took off. And he was not in a good way. Like, he was obviously really scared of flying. And he was fucking shaking and bricking himself. And he went to the toilet. He kept going to the toilet. And then at one point, he'd been in the toilet for about an hour. Like, he just obviously felt safe. Maybe it was because it was an enclosed space. Like, he felt safe. And the stewardesses were trying to get him out, and family were there, and they had to unlock the door and like physically remove him from there. And he just wanted to curl up in a ball, and he was just shaking. They eventually sat him back down. As soon as 5 minutes had passed, he got up and went to the toilet again. And it turns out I was listening into the conversation because they were speaking to the steward saying like he's really scared of flying and stuff. Right. They were meant to be flying to Australia.
Oh fuck!
So like Jesus Christ, really? If you're that scared of flying, why the fuck would you fly from the UK to Australia? But maybe he thought he could do it and he just couldn't. So they were like, right, well, they decided that when they get to Dubai, then he'll just won't be continuing the trip.
Right.
And they said you'll just get a boat back. Or something, like it's just the easiest thing. Like, we'll just come off and just get a boat back to Glasgow. Like I don't think that's how it works. I always wonder about that guy and what happened to him. Like, it was terrible to see because he was in a bad way, and I felt really sorry for him. Yeah. But what can you do? But I often wonder what happened to him. Like, if he got a boat back, or if he just started a new life in Dubai,
still here,
go anywhere.
I thought you were going to say that he was really he had been at the game and he was really hungover. That's why he was shaking and trembling.
That's what I thought initially, because that's the instinctive thing that you think. So I thought you had been maybe a bit hungover, but yeah, he was not in a good way. So never mind. Shame. Wonder what happened to him.
Yeah.
What about yourself? Have you ever seen anyone kick off on a plane or get thrown off? Or?
I've never seen anyone get thrown off. I mean, I remember flying back from Turkey to Kuwait, and we were flying with Pegasus, which is. Or I was on my own. Pegasus is like the sort of budget Turkish airline. And when I got on, there was like an older lady who, they always take on sort of old people if they're in wheelchairs and stuff. They got on first. So she had been taken on, and she was sat down, and I got on whenever I got on. And like her and one of the cabin crew, like when a stewardess just started having this massive argument, and what I assumed to be Turkish, and just like shouting and bawling at each other. I've no idea what it was about. there was a guy sitting beside me who sort of gave me a bit of a sort of eye roll smile, and I really wanted to ask him what they were arguing about, but I've got no idea. I did feel a bit like kicking off myself this week, because I was flying back to Kuwait from Dubai, and I was on Emirates, and they checked us on quite early. And when I was checking on, I was like, it's awfully early. We're not supposed to take off for like another hour. And the girl said, yeah, but it's a full flight, so we're trying to get in front of it. So I was like, all right, fair enough. So we ended up not taking off on time because security in Kuwait was busy because people were late, and so we had to wait for them. You know what I mean? But as I'd be thinking, well, if you should have got to the fucking airport earlier, like I did, and then we could be taking off on time. But there was one. I always sit in the aisle because I've got long legs and I like to sort of stretch them out when I can. But there was an empty seat beside me, and it was like there wasn't many empty seats, and I'm watching the passengers get on, and I'm just thinking, and every one of them, all the guys getting on, I'm just thinking, I bet this guy's going to be sitting next to me. I bet this guy's going to be sitting next to me. Don't you fucking dare sit next to me. Because I was sitting quite close to the door to the plane where they were getting on. But then luckily quite a nice girl got on, and she was sat beside me, but then she moved because the only other empty seat was next to two of her pals. But silver lining, there was nobody sitting next to me for the short flight Kuwait to Dubai. But
there's hardly any better feeling, is there, than when there's an empty seat next to you and you're just waiting, and then you hear the doors closing, and you're like, you fucking beauty.
You hear those magic words, ground staff, please leave the airplane. Ground staff, please leave the airplane. You're like, yes! And if you're sitting on a row of 3 and there's like somebody sitting in the next seat and the seat's empty, and you both realise that the middle seat's empty, there's like a very sort of quiet bonding that goes on. That you probably won't talk to each other for the whole flight, but you just a sort of acknowledgement. Yes. You know, it's almost a fist bump moment, you know. Anyway, that's my first flight about silly Ouija's causing chaos on Egypt-bound flights. What's your first story for our 100th episode?
My first story is from Edinburgh Live this week, Greg. It's from today, actually. And the headline reads, East Lothian Airbnb guests, vigorous tryst, knocked neighbour's clock off wall. So, guests staying in an Airbnb holiday let had sex so vigorously a clock fell off the wall of the flat downstairs. Residents living in the block of flats in Musselburgh, East Lothian, included the incident in a series of objections to a licence being issued for the short-term holiday use of the property. However, the owner of the Airbnb dismissed the complaint as ridiculous, adding, how could I stop anyone having sex? Alan Montgomery applied for a licence to operate his top floor flat in the block of 6 on Edinburgh Road, which has been rented out as a holiday flat for the last 20 months. Neighbours in the building, however, have objected, saying it had been used as a party flat. There have been incidents of men urinating in gardens. A drunken hen party had intimidated residents, while police had to be called to an incident involving drunken golfers. One objector wrote, one couple decided to have sex so vigorously and loudly in the living room of the flat that they caused the downstairs neighbour's clock to fall off the wall, and it was damaged. During a meeting of East Lothian's Council's licensing subcommittee today, Mr. Montgomery said he was willing to take any action necessary to ensure future disturbances were avoided at the property, including installing carpets, a noise monitor, and a ring doorbell, which would monitor the number of people entering the flat. On the incident involving the clock, he said, as a respectable man, I visited the neighbour and I fixed the clock back on the wall. What more can he do? Mr. Montgomery denied claims that it was a party flat and said he would ensure no guests were able to book single night stays amid concerns local people were using the flat, something which the committee heard has become a trend with short-term lets across the country and beyond. Neighbour Maxine Wood addressed the committee on behalf of other residents, saying issues had continued at the property despite complaints to Mr. Montgomery, including overflowing bins at the property, which she said was not helped by the council moving its fortnightly collection to a 3-weekly service. Sounds like Maxine's just having a little dig at the council there as well to get that complaint in. She said, we're having ongoing problems. Last week, the 4 guests that were there were smoking weed in the back garden and blocking access to the beach. We were very frustrated and upset. Councillor Colin McGinn committee chairperson, told Mr. Montgomery, "I feel that to have been in operation for 20 months and have such a catalogue of complaints is quite alarming. The committee agreed to grant a licence to operate for a reduced time of 18 months with conditions that carpets were put down, noise monitors installed, and a video doorbell put in." So, Greg, have you ever had sex so vigorously that you've knocked your neighbour's clock off the wall?
I don't think I've ever had sex so vigorously that I've knocked a pillow off the bed.
I mean, is that the address? Where are we staying? Because we've got an Airbnb in Edinburgh. I better check if it's that flat.
Yeah, we do, but it's not near the beach. So,
No.
yeah, we'll have to. And our mutual friend has booked it, so I'm not sure. I can't remember the address. But yeah, we'll have to be think about our neighbours.
Yeah. But why? Because we're going to be having vigorous sex, the three of us.
No, but
We could be reenacting the video of try not to get a boner. Or whatever it was called.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was called.
I know, I've bookmarked it.
No, I'm just saying we don't want to, because, we get together, some beers will probably have been taken, might get a bit rambunctious. What I wanted to focus on there was the sort of words that the complainant used. Like, a couple decided to have sex so vigorously. You know what I mean? How does that scenario, shall we fuck each other's brains out, or should we just have sex? Nah, come on, we're on holiday. Let's fuck each other's brains out. Let's see if we can knock some ornaments down the stairs.
We're in an Airbnb. No one gives a shit. It's fine. Let's just go for it. Let's go wild. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, at least the owner's a respectable man and he knows how to fix a clock. That was lucky.
Yeah, he knows how to fix a clock, and he has said he'll put carpets down and install a noise alarm, and I don't know what that does really, and a Ring doorbell so you can see how many people are there. I have no idea, but at least he's trying.
A couple that are there for the fringe. They've had a lovely day out watching the shows, and it's their first visit to Edinburgh, and they're swept up in the romance and the history of the city, and they're very much in love, and they get back to that Airbnb and start having passionate sex, and then a sort of noise alarm starts going off, like a rape alarm. You know what I mean? They might not leave a 5-star review. Maybe not.
I might need to try and find that property actually and look for any reviews that have been left on there. So that'll be good. So yeah, okay. No sex in the Airbnb, please.
Yeah. And if you do, missionary, very in the bed, very quiet.
Keep it respectable level. Just, keep it nice and quiet. Just save yourself for when you're in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah.
Okay. What else have you seen this week, Greg?
My next story is about St Andrews University. So this is from the beginning of May. The headline is from the Scottish Sun. The headline is Deeply Dippy. Remember the old Right Said Fred song, Deeply Dippy?
Of course I do. Yes, of course.
The absolute banger. Right. Inside St Andrews May Day tradition, as hundreds of students wear red gowns in cult-like march before cold water plunge. So hundreds of students wore red gowns and took part in a cult-like march before braving the cold for a dip in the sea as part of a historic and special tradition. Students from the University of St Andrews gathered in the Fife town to participate in the annual Gaudie event, Gaudie. Dressed in their traditional red robes, they were led by a piper in a torchlit procession along the pier to East Sands. The event takes place every year on the 30th of April to commemorate John Honey, a student who died in 1800. Honey risked his life to rescue survivors of a shipping accident which happened offshore. Helped by fellow students, he managed to tie a rope around his waist and he swam out to the Janet of Macduff's ship, as he didn't have a lifeboat, and swam back to shore with a member of the crew. He made a dangerous trip 5 times, saving 5 people in the process, but on the final attempt, the ship's mast collapsed and fell on his chest. Honey managed to make it back to the beach, but collapsed with exhaustion. But he went on to serve as a Church of Scotland minister before tragically dying at the age of 32 after suffering unresolved health issues from the shipwreck. So in honour of his memory, students walk along the pier and lay a wreath at the site of the accident. This is then followed by their annual May Dip, which sees students stripped to their swimwear and make their way down to the water at East Sands on the 1st of May. Braving the cold, the students collectively run into the North Sea as the sun rises. The dip in the freezing sea is a unique tradition in the university, which is said to cleanse students of any academic sins and bring good luck for future exams. It is also said to be the only cure for breaking the curse of Patrick Hamilton, who was a preacher and a member of the Faculty of the Arts in the 16th century. He was killed and burned at the stake in the town centre in 1528 after speaking out about the corruption in the Church of Scotland. So here we have photographs of lots of future Tory voters in their bikinis on the beach at St Andrews, to commemorate this brave guy. Well, I thought it was quite a nice story. There's some nice pictures of the students in their swimwear on the Scottish Sun's website if you want to have a wee look, but I thought it's quite a nice tradition there.
Would you ever do something like that?
Would I ever jump into the North Sea?
Yes.
No. I'd only jump into the North Sea to save perhaps a drowning person who was very, very close to me, but there would have to be like a really, really, really close to me before I would do that.
So basically, your children then.
Yeah, my wife. My children, my wife. I would obviously jump in for you. Our mutual.
Oh, thanks, man.
Our mutual friends. I suppose I've got to add my nieces and nephews to the list. I couldn't say my siblings. But definitely my nieces and nephews.
Okay. I'm glad I've made it above your siblings in the list of people that we'll save.
Yeah.
I hope none of them listen to this podcast.
No, they don't. They say they do, but I fucking know they don't.
Well, you've just left a little breadcrumb there for them in case they do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't fancy that, jumping into the North Sea. No way.
No.
Like, it's, no, thank you.
Definitely not. So anyway, that was... just a little quick one there about St Andrews. What's your next story?
This next story is from the Scottish Sun, Greg, and it's from today. And the headline is, Utterly Bonkers. Bizarre moment, escaped cow tries to get into a woman's house in one of Glasgow's toughest estates. So there's a video online of this cow trying to get into this woman's house. This is a bizarre moment. A cheeky cow tried to get into a woman's home in one of Glasgow's toughest housing estates after escaping from a nearby farm. Locals in Hepburn Court in Castlemilk were left stunned when two massive cows descended on the area. And there's photos of these two cows just roaming around the street. The large animals were spotted wandering around the neighbourhood yesterday afternoon, shortly after 2 p.m, as baffled residents watched from their windows. One of the cows, brown in colour, was seen strolling up to one of... Why has that tickled you so much?
What an unusual thing to say.
Well, because one's black and white and the other one's brown, so they're obviously trying to differentiate the two.
Right, okay.
So one of the cows, brown in colour, was seen strolling up to one of the properties and appeared to chap on the door. A neighbour began filming the hilarious moment on her phone from across the street, while the cow waited patiently at the door. A confused woman opened the door to the huge cow, which then popped its head inside the doorway.
That is fucking brilliant.
The gallus animal then casually tried to step into the home, leaving the neighbour in stitches.
Casually?
But the woman managed... Casually, just lifted a little leg to casually go in. But the woman quickly managed to slam the door shut to stop the huge cow from getting in. This led to the cow bowing its head. Oh, it was upset.
Yeah.
And quickly turning around before it stood in her garden for a few seconds. But then the animal walked out the garden and went to catch up with its friend, another black and white cow that was also roaming the area. This hilarious incident come moments after the same cheeky brown cow chased a young girl down the street. The girl was walking along the street in the same area when she spotted the huge animal charging at her. Her family were left in stitches as she managed to escape by jumping into her mum's car. Would you be left in stitches if one of your kids was running away from a cow, terrified? Like, probably, actually, yeah. It is understood that the nearby farmer was called, who managed to get his two animals back safely. The video, which was shared with the Scottish Sun, was later posted on social media, where it quickly amassed over 90,000 views. It was shared on the Glasgow Gospel's Facebook page, with over 600 people flocking to the comments to joke about the hilarious occurrence. One person said, "Well, that's the freshest milk delivered straight to your doorstep you'll ever get." Another added, it's only trying to move house.
Oh dear.
Someone else posted, probs why it's called Castle Milk. A fourth poster added, poor wee coo got knocked back from getting in. And a fifth chimed in, I'm pissing myself at the one trying to go in the door. So that's the story of a couple of cows in Castle Milk just trying to get in someone's house.
Yeah, I feel like the Scottish Sun have missed a couple of pun opportunities there. Like the headline could have been Castle Milkers, and then, you know what I mean?
You don't think utterly bonkers is good enough?
I don't know. It wouldn't be my go-to. And then instead of saying people flocked to Twitter, they could have said people herded to Twitter.
Yeah, flocked sheep. So I did think when I read that out, I thought, that's a bit of a misstep that they've done there.
I mean, I'm surprised that the cows are so bold, because my experience with cows is they're quite timid. Do you remember my friend Dale, who I used to share a flat with in Aberdeen?
Yeah, of course.
So when him and I were at school together, he lived out in the countryside near Lawnmay, which is not far from Fraserburgh. I remember him and I cutting through a field full of cows, and they all sort of came running up to look at us. And because I wasn't a country boy, I was somewhat alarmed. But Dale just sort of stood his ground, and they would sort of get within about maybe 8 feet of him, and then just sort of jump on the brakes and turn and run away again. So I think it's a bit of sort of inquisitiveness. But I'd have thought when the woman opened the door, the cow would have been on its toes, so to speak, when confronted by the woman.
Yeah, I would have thought so. It's quite strange that it tried to step in. So it's obviously a brave, it's a cheeky wee cow. It is. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, lovely story. A little bit of nature in Castle Milk is just what you need. Oh.
Indeed.
Have you seen anything else this week, Greg?
Well, from mad cows to mad birds, this is about, you and I have discussed these creatures before a few times. It's from the Daily Record, this story, and the headline reads, Scots city home to hardest seagulls, as locals have named XL Gullies.
Oh, Jesus.
After the XL bullies that I hadn't ever heard about until about 6 months ago when they started making headlines in the UK.
Yeah.
So it'll come as no surprise to regular listeners that we're talking about Aberdeen, reportedly home to the UK's worst seagulls, described as another level of psychotic. and out for blood. The country's most aggressive seagulls, dubbed XL Gullies, have been mapped out as they terrorise residents by stealing food, launching attacks, and even shoplifting. This follows a report by the Daily Star. On a giant top-level boss gull causing chaos in Liverpool city centre, leading to an increase in XL Gullies stealing people's pasties. Horror stories of gulls terrorising towns are all too familiar, but one city in Scotland is particularly renowned, reports the Daily Star. One user on Reddit recently asked, which town in the UK has the roughest seagulls? The question was quickly met with people claiming that Aberdeen was by far the worst, with routine attacks on people, just a normal day-to-day occurrence. One user wrote, Aberdeen, it's not even a close competition. There's a few who will regularly help themselves to stuff in shops. Routine attacks on people are normal. Oh, and they are fucking massive and hyper-aggressive. Plenty of towns have bad gull problems, but Aberdeen is a whole other level of psychotic bastard birds. Another agreed, adding, two of the vicious buggers nicked a baguette out my car boot.
Out his car boot? Fucking hell.
When I was loading my shopping, and then the others mobbed me when I tried to shut the boot. I've lived in a number of coastal areas in the UK, but the Aberdeen gulls are something else. Another chimed in, I moved from the Highlands to Aberdeen, and I thought Highland seagulls were the worst until my first encounter with an Aberdonian seagull. They are absolutely ruthless and will go for blood, which is sadly not an exaggeration. Councils in some coastal towns have been forced to publish survival guides on how to deal with the birds. At the University of Sussex in Brighton, freshers have been handed flyer flyers warning them that seagulls will rob them. One Reddit user acknowledged the issue in Brighton after being attacked themselves by gangs of vicious seagulls. But another touted St Ives as one of the worst places, adding, Cornish gulls are like pterodactyls. I've lived there my whole life. And a St Ives gull got me swooping over my shoulder and took my ice cream cone. One agreed, adding, yep, I had one headbutt me.
Fucking seagull give you a malky.
I had one headbutt me and it fucked off with half my pasty.
I'd love to have seen that. Seagull come out, just headbutt someone and then nick half a pasty. Fucking brilliant.
And of course it wasn't long before somebody mentioned Wales. One piped up, in Rill, seagulls need asbos. Well, Van Ludno, seagulls there are absolute psychopaths and will nail your ice creams on the pier. One row, I saw a guy drop us. Sorry. I'm sorry. One row, I saw a guy drop a seagull with an uppercut. I saw a guy drop a seagull with an uppercut after it stole his chips in Barmouth, Wales, when I was like 15 years old. I know that doesn't speak much for the roughness of Seagull's lair, but it's a fun story that I like to reminisce about. I mean, well, we've spoken about the seagulls in Aberdeen many times in this podcast, but I mean, they do seem big in Aberdeen, especially when when you see them flying low with their wings right out. They're like fucking albatrosses. So they're
huge. They're absolutely huge in Aberdeen. Yeah, and it can be quite scary sometimes, they're just roaming about there, but they're vicious bastards, really are.
I mean, I know I said before, but I'll never forget when I was up in Aberdeen visiting you guys and walking up Belmont Street and seeing like a Robert Gordon's kid being relieved of his lunch by a swooping seagull. I'd never seen anything like it in my fucking life. I mean, they're so bold.
They just don't give a shit, though. But that's just the way they are.
It's kind of part of their charm, in a way, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I don't mind them, actually. I quite like them.
Yeah.
Like as I say, I've told the story as well on the Swally before. Like we, at Pittodrie, Aberdeen's football ground, there's a big problem with seagulls. They all round. So they did employ, I think it was a falcon, to scare off the seagulls. And then until one day that the falcon got hold of a seagull in the middle of the pitch and just fucking destroyed it. And it was like crying kids and stuff. So the falcon got swiftly removed. And we now have a mascot called Sammy the Seagull. So I guess in tribute to the dead seagull.
So another victory for the seagulls there on Aberdeen.
Never mind. Oh well.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway, any more stories from Scotland this week?
No, I am done for this week, Greg.
Okay then.
Perfect. Right. Well, before we go on to what we're going to be talking about today, let's have a little word from our sponsor. And our sponsor is, of course, Doric Skateboards, a skateboard brand created by Gary Kemp, whose main focus is to explore the people and the culture of Aberdeen and the northeast of Scotland, and to create designs that reflect life in that area. Doric Skateboards screen print their own decks in their studio by Gary's fair hand, and they have produced some amazing designs over the years, including an Annie Lennox-inspired board, a Robert the Bruce deck, and a Plenty of Pop deck inspired by the old Bonaccord trucks that used to drive around Aberdeen delivering fizzy drinks. Doric Skateboards also replicate these amazing designs onto clothing on 100% organic cotton tees, hoodies, sweatshirts, and you can also fill your boots on stickers, pin badges, beanies, and caps. Gary regularly collaborates with local artists to ensure that he brings the latest designs to the market, but always with a Doric twist, including the Ballater Toy Shop design, inspired by Scotland a What, which we actually need to cover quite soon, Greg. So check out Doric Skateboards for yourself on doricskateboards.com, and you can follow them on Instagram at Doric Skateboards to see all the amazing designs on offer. And we are delighted to be able to offer you 15% off as listeners to this podcast. All you need to do is head to doricskateboards.com, have a look at all the amazing decks, stickers, badges, hoodies and tees on offer, and enter the promo code SWALLY. That's SWALLY, same as the name of this podcast, and get your 15% off. That's doricskateboards.com, link in the description of this episode. Okay, Greg, so it is our 100th episode today, and we're doing something a little bit different and something we haven't done before. Why don't you tell us what we're going to be looking at today on the Culture Swally?
So back when we were young podcasters, I mean, I was only 41 years of age when we started this journey, and one of the first episode was the Still Game live show, which was a bit of a way for us to get into podcasting and things. But then the second episode was probably one of the most classic, fondly remembered Scottish films, especially for people of a certain age, i.e. our age. And we thought, because it was the 100th episode, and we feel like we're more accomplished podcasters now than we were 4 years ago, although our listeners might not necessarily agree with that. We thought it was time to have another look at an absolute cornerstone of the Scottish film industry, and that's Gregory's Girl. So, as everybody hopefully knows, directed by Bill Forsyth, fantastic Scottish director of films like Local Hero, That Sinking Feeling, Gregory's Two Girls, amongst other things. And starring John Gordon Sinclair, or Gordon John Sinclair, as the credits list them as at the beginning of the film. The lovely Crea Grogan, Dee Wallace, and a whole raft of some of our favourite and oft-mentioned Scottish actors. So we're back on Gregory's Girl, classic story of teenage coming-of-age romance. I didn't listen back to the original episode, so there's a very strong chance that I might repeat myself a little bit here, but I think it's fine.
That's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
We can repeat ourselves. We're redoing it. It's the ReSwally, it's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. So
we didn't decide, actually. Is it the ReSwally or the second Swally?
I like the ReSwally. Do you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then does that not make connotations of kind of, backwash type?
Yeah, it does a bit, actually. Yeah, it does. Another cornerstone of teenage adolescent life.
Fuck it, we'll go with the ReSwally then.
So, as we said, as I'm sure we said on the last time we spoke about this, for me, Gregory's Girl was, because my name's Greg, it's not Gregory. I used to get a bit of Gregory. I used to get a bit of Gregory's Girl, not in the way that I would have liked to have got it, just we get called Gregory's Girl when I was a kid. So I always knew about the film, but I didn't actually see it until I was well into my teens, and I happened to catch it one night either on BBC Two or Channel 4, and it's famously filmed in Cumbernauld, which is a town that I know reasonably well because my dad lived there for many years, and I remember being struck by recognising some of the places where the movie's filmed. But yeah, I was probably I could have been as old as 15 or 16 before I saw this for the first time. But remind the listeners your first encounter with the movie.
Probably about the same as you, actually, Greg. I was around about maybe slightly younger, but I remember I was in drama class and we got given pages from Gregory's Girl to rehearse, and it was the whole Gregory. It was basically from the Gregory waiting at the clock to him meeting Susan for the date. Mm-hmm. Those are the pages. So it was the whole exchange with Margot and Carol and that whole kind of scene. And I was playing Gregory. So I remember, that, and I'd never seen the film. And just so happened, a couple of weeks later, it was on BBC Two or Channel 4 late at night, and I watched it, and I would have been, maybe 13, I think, at the time. So it might have been roughly around about the same showing, or
quite possibly.
As often happened, it was kind of they would repeat films, but it would be quite a weird happenstance if that was the first time we saw it, together, 8 years or so before we actually knew each other. Quite strange.
I think it's probably quite likely because if we think about it, unless you had Sky, and we never had Sky, and you couldn't get, when did Channel 5 come? Maybe 1999 or 98, 99, we never...
it was 96, 97, because the Spice Girls launched it. So I think it was 97, Channel 5 came out. But I remember the Spice Girls launching it.
I'm sure.
That's fine.
I mean, I was living in Maud, which is a wee village about 25 to 30 miles outside of Aberdeen, and we didn't have Channel 5 either, so we literally had 4 channels. But the good thing, which I think BBC Two probably still do, I don't know if Channel 4 do it so much, is that they would often show, I don't really like to use the term, but I suppose I have to, sort of cult movies. So like my first experience of films like Dawn of the Dead or Taxi Driver, films like that would be maybe like a Sunday night on BBC Two, maybe like a marker mode introduction before the film.
Yeah.
But like with Gregory's Girl, I'd missed the beginning of it. I think I must have missed like the first 10 minutes or so. So I didn't see the scene when the boys are sort of spying on the nurse, like getting undressed, like at the sort of pre-credits scene, which I'm sure if I'd known that scene was in the film, I'd have been really disappointed about missing it when I was that age. But yeah, it was great. Like for kids with a TV in their bedroom who were sort of night owls, Channel 4 and BBC Two were great for just sort of turning you on to these classic films that, well...
turning you on.
Or, on a Friday night, Channel 4 was great at turning you on because you had Eurotrash. But you know what I mean? But just sort of exposing you to a lot of these. I've obviously been a big movie fan since my late teens, and I really kind of put that down to just watching films that I would probably I might never have come across. For goodness sake. I know it's about teenage adolescence, but we can raise the tone a wee bit, surely.
There's a bit of a dirty start to this film. It has 5 boys spying on a nurse getting undressed, and you get to see her boobs.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, if you're coming into this film not really knowing or what it's about or something, you might be thinking, is this like the UK version of Porky's?
Yeah.
Which also came out in 1981.
Right.
And I think this film shows just the pure difference between American teenage culture at that time and Scottish UK culture at that time, because it couldn't be more different. Porky's is a fucking... I haven't watched it for years, actually. I'm going to watch that tonight. No, I'm not going to watch it tonight. I don't want to see Porky's ever again. But, that's a body sex comedy.
Yeah.
And whereas Gregory's Girl is such a gentle, beautiful film, and it could have been easy to go down that route, like in terms of the body comedy, but that's not Bill Forsyth's way. Like, he's very much a subtle, surreal kind of director. And I think it's just such an absolute seminal and beautiful film. And that's what I like about it so much. Like the characters that he captures are so well crafted. And I'm trying to think, there's not really anyone in a Bill Forsyth film I can really think of that isn't likable in a way. Like, there are some slight villains, like Comfort and Joy, for example, but they always turn out okay in the end. And even like Local Hero, like kind of everything turns out, fine. Everyone's kind of happy and well. And it would have been so easy. And I just love the fact that it's not like, in a way, like there's no, in this film, effectively, there's no story, right? There is a story, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird thing. There's no action. There's no gross out kind of comedy thing that you would get in Porky's or American Pie, which, probably was inspired by Porky's. But there's heart, there's honesty, there's joy, there's warmth in this film. It's just such a beautiful film. And I think it's so well handled. And for the beginning to be like that, in terms of a little bit of nudity, it's weird. It kind of is odd that it's in the film, but it sets up so much later on. It's needed because you see that the teenage boys are kind of obsessed with girls.
As all teenage boys are.
As all teenage boys are. And as all adult boys are as well. But it sets up a couple of fantastic jokes later on in the film. So that's why I think that scene is needed.
Yeah.
And is acceptable to have in it. And I think it really works well because it does set up a couple of fucking brilliant jokes later on in the film.
I mean, you made a good point there about, it's not like a kind of bawdy sex comedy, although, there is a sort of undercurrent of, especially not so much with Gregory, but with his pals, there is a sort of undercurrent of, we've got to get laid, you know what I mean, about like in Porky's. But the thing about the film is there's not really a lot of kind of visual gags as such. There's visual humour, but there's a lot of talking, you know what I mean? And a lot of the humour comes from the conversations between the characters. Like I'm reminded of the scene in the science lab with Dee Wallace and Claire Grogan when they're talking about boys. And Dorothy asked Diane, do you think Alan's a virgin? Do you think Alan's still a virgin? She says, no, Alan's been in the orchestra for over a year now. You know what I mean? And so it's all, you have to be paying attention. It's not the sort of film you can just have on, because like 90% of the comedy is it's spoken word. The other 10% is just the way Gordon Sinclair kind of moves around when he's on the screen, especially in the scenes when it's just him, like when he's brushing his teeth or when he's putting like roll-on deodorant on over his t-shirt, or when he's training in things. You know what I mean? It's just him, and he's so awkward and kind of gangly and silly, yeah.
You've kind of come across a few things there that I kind of want to discuss as well. Yeah. So, first of all, the physical comedy of John Gordon Sinclair is incredible. Like the scene where he's walking to school and he's late. It's just after he's met his dad, Dave Anderson. Don't worry, we're coming back to Dave Anderson. And he's walking to school kind of doing this like diagonal kind of zigzag, and the teachers are laughing at him. And the way he is in goal, and then when he's in the changing rooms and Dorothy comes in and he just covers his nipples with his fingers. He's just so gangly. He's so tall. And there's that great scene with Jake Darcy when he says like, this year I used to be this tall, and crouches down. And he's like, are you growing a moustache? His physical comedy is great. Now, this is something that I'm not going to dwell on because I don't know how to actually approach this subject of it like in today's world. And I'm just going to say this, and you can maybe advise me if you think I should cut this out. Do we think that Gregory was on the spectrum?
Well, I mean, I suppose that through the modern lens, there would be a desire to try and label him like on the spectrum. But the thing is, like the whole world of the film is so surreal anyway, with the penguin wandering through, and every teacher keeps telling them to go to a different room. When Gregory comes out his door to go to school, and there's just all these little kids and no adults around, in his pathway outside his door, like all that sort of thing. It's just, it's so surreal. Gregory is like completely accepted. The only person that tries to avoid him is Mr. Menzies. Every time he sees him coming, played by Jake Darcy, and he sort of ducks and, tries to stay out his way because for some reason he doesn't want to tell him that he wants him out of the football team. He can't kind of manage Gregory to be able to have the tough conversation with him that he's just not good enough to be in the team because he's just so relentlessly cheerful.
You've mentioned about some of the surreal aspects, and I think that there are so many little things in this film. Like you said, the penguin that just pops up a couple of times, keeps getting called to different rooms. There is one of my favourite parts, which I'd never really noticed before, is when Gregory and Dorothy are practicing together. She's taking shots on him. Yeah. And it starts with a wide shot, and there's a coach telling a guy how to do the high jump. Yeah. And he just runs through the beam. Just makes no attempt to do it. Like, I'd never really noticed that before. I don't know how.
The thing that really makes me laugh about that is that when he's knocked the beam down, he just sort of lies prone on the crash mat. Then he try and get up again. There's just something really, really funny about that. You don't know if has he hurt himself or is he disappointed in himself, or just the way he just lies there dead still when he sort of fucks it up.
And then later on, when he's going on the date and he meets Susan, there are like two old women mowing the lawn. in like the same dresses, like either side of the shot. And it's Bill Forsyth. It's all these bizarre little things. Now, I've watched Gregory's Girl many times. I haven't watched it since we last recorded the first episode. This is the first time I've watched it and realised exactly what this film is. It's a sketch movie, and there's a thread running through the movie, but it's full of little sketches and interspersed things, like Chick Murray, which we'll come back to later. Scenes with Jake Darcy, scenes with Alex Norton, and the other teachers. It's little things like, oh God, I can't wait to come to the Jake Darcy part with the ravioli, for example. But it's a sketch movie, but with a thread running through it, and Gregory is the thread that runs us through this movie, but he's just meandering through it. Like, everything that happens to Gregory is driven by someone else or something else. Like, he's just a gawky, kind of gormless guy just going through this film, this sketch film. Yeah. And I've now realised what this film is, and it's taken me, that long to work out, but it's a sketch movie. But just with all these different parts to it.
Yeah, he's, it's the way that he sort of towers over everybody else in the school, like in the scenes when there's like, again, sort of home time and there's lots of kids and they're all sort of coming out. And he's so tall. He just sort of stands above everybody, even like his pals like Andy, and Alan and all those guys. He's like so much taller. Your eyes immediately drawn to him, and it's a really great performance from Gordon Sinclair, because it's only his second film. It's his first lead, and he just seems completely natural. Like, I love the scene when he finds out that Dorothy wants to speak to him in the classroom, and he goes into the boys' toilets to try and tame his hair, and there's a wee boy combing his hair, and he sort of wrestles the comb off him. Like, hardly does anything to his own hair, gives him his comb back, and then messes up the wee boy's hair before he walks out. It's just this sort of like, it's as if it's kind of knowing, but also a bit unconscious about just how funny he is. I mean, the fact that, I'm like you, I've seen this film a ton of times, and there's some things about him and all the way through the film that still really make me laugh. And it's usually the kind of physical stuff when he's not, when he's not speaking or anything.
The bit that really made me laugh on the rewatch, and it always makes me laugh, but I really was in hysterics, is when Madeline's creepy little boyfriend Richard comes to the door, and Gregory's like, "Act your age, away and break some windows." Piss off. It's just, you wee pervert. Like, what are you doing? It's hilarious the way he's degrading this young boy. The young boy's like, "Okay, well, I'll see you later," and just walks off.
You must be Gregory.
I wonder if Maddie's in.
You mean Madeline? She's out with her mother.
That's a shame. I thought we'd go for a walk. Maybe I could wait.
Nah, there'll be ages.
Maybe she could phone me later on. She has my number.
Who are you anyway? You're talking about my sister, and she doesn't go for walks with anybody. What's the idea? Coming to people's doors, seducing people's sisters. Act your age. Go and break some windows, demolish some phone boxes. See, when I was your age...
You're Gregory, aren't you? How are you feeling? Everything okay?
There's nothing wrong with me, son. You're the one that should be worried. Seducing children. You're a freak. You're heading for big trouble. Underage walks, dates. You'll run out of vices before you're 12 if you don't slow down. Go on, piss off.
Okay, Gregory. Fair enough. Richard's the name. Ask Maddie to call me anyway.
The name's Madeline. Go on, piss off.
Something I never realised. I know we're all over the place. Hey, this is what we do at this podcast. We're all over the place. When you first meet Richard, the very first time, he's waiting outside Madeline's school. Well, obviously it's his school as well. But he's waiting for her outside class to give her a wee poke of sweet. I never realised he's whistling "Suicide is Painless," the theme from MASH. I never realised that until this rewatch. And I was like, holy fuck, that "Suicide is Painless." Like, that isn't deep.
The thing with Bill Forsyth, it's just these... I love a film where you pick up something different every time you watch it. You've just mentioned two brilliant ones, like the high jumper and the MASH theme. there. But it's just brilliant. I mean, it's, you know, and it's a really quick film. I'm always amazed at how quickly it's over. It always feels, when I'm about to watch it, I feel like it's going to be longer. But it's a tight, wee, short film, really, compared to modern movies.
It reminds me very much of a film that came later, and a film, one of my favourite films of all time, and probably the film I've seen the most of all time. And every time I watch it, I still laugh at something different or spot something new. And that's, again, similar. It's basically just sketches with a thread. This is Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
And I can give it no higher compliment than that is one of my favourite films of all time. And every time I watch it, I laugh at something different or something new, or you spot something in the background that you've never seen before. But yeah, there's just so many little things in this that just so wonderful. We'll come on to speaking about the film properly, because we're kind of going all over the place. Yeah. Do you think, because we're kind of talking about John Gordon Sinclair, so we can continue that. Do you think this harmed his career in a way, that he became so associated with the role of Gregory? Because the following year, he was obviously riding on a crest of a wave, and he had a big hit single with We Have a Dream.
Yeah.
With the 1982 Scotland team. Do you think this harmed his career in a way because he was so associated with this role?
I don't know, you know. I mean, I think if this film were to be made now, with the same cast at the age they were when the film was made, I think he would probably go on to a lot of success. You know, assuming the film would be as well received now as it was when it was originally released. I don't know if he's a victim of the film as much as he's just a victim of the situation that British cinema was in at the time. You know, there wasn't a lot of big British hits. You know, I know he's got a small part in Local Hero, but he did like quite a lot of television. Yeah, you know, like and British television in the wake of this, which is a shame, because he's a fantastic actor. Gordon Sinclair. And, you know, I think he must be, in his 60s by now. I'm sure he must be in his 60s by now, or his late 50s at the very least. So
62.
Yeah. So, you know, he's probably, the ship's maybe sailed a little bit in terms of a big break. I know he turns up in World War Z, but I always thought that was part of the conditions that Glasgow City Council set when they said they could film in it, that you got to give Gordon Sinclair a wee part in it.
He was in an episode of Death in Paradise just this year, apparently.
Yeah, I think he's always sort of been grafting, like either on the TV or on the stage, you know. If I look at his IMDb, I'm going to open here. So immediately after this, Britannia Hospital, like in terms of movies, you know, some stuff, a wee part in Bergerac, you know. But then, and I remember the movie Eric the Viking, which I remember being quite a big film when it came out in 1989, although I don't think I ever saw it. I think Teddy Jones from Monty Python might have wrote it. He's got a part in that. But it's all like, that's the one that I remember him in, is the sitcom Nelson's Column, where he played a journalist. I remember that being on when I was a teenager. There's My Summer with Des, which sounds a bit like it might be about Dennis Nielsen, but I'm sure it probably isn't.
I think it's about Des Lynam.
Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I can see his wee face there. The thumbnail.
The one I really remember him from is An Actor's Life for Me. I don't know if you remember that sitcom, really. Which again was like a one series thing that was on the BBC, and it was about a Scottish actor's hilarious efforts in finding work. I wonder, because I think he was based in London, but it's about a Scottish actor starring John Gordon Sinclair. I might see if I can find that, because that could be something we could definitely cover. I mean, some of the stuff we've covered is so tenuous that we could work, but we'll leave it for a while anyway. But yeah, I just wondered if it kind of hampered his career. But the first thing, when someone mentions his name, first thing you think of is Gregory's Girl.
Which I'm sure he's probably quite proud of. You know what I mean? Because it's a seminal Scottish movie at a time that did internationally brilliantly at a time when, one, not a lot of Scottish movies for the cinema were being made, and two, not a lot of British movies were really doing well internationally, you know?
Yeah, definitely. No, I think so. Yeah, I mean, and the scenes that he has are just so good in terms of, I think we spoke about it previously, but the scene with him coming down the stairs with the fucking electric toothbrush with the massive battery pack. And then he goes into the kitchen and he is opening a can with the electric can opener. He's making like a coffee or a milkshake with the milkshake maker. And it's just everything is going on at that time. And then he makes a dog biscuit with Primula cheese and has that as a snack. And then has his like milkshake with a pineapple ring on it. It's bizarreness, but it's so funny and so good.
It sort of sums up the entire 1980s, that little scene with all the gadgets. You know, it couldn't be any more 80s than if he got in a Sinclair C5 and drove to school. You know.
Well, speaking of which, and then he comes in and meets his dad, who he doesn't address his dad, does he? He addresses him by his name. Is it Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Mike. He's like, Dad's fine. It seems like Gregory never sees his parents because they're like, oh, you know, your mum, do you remember her? She's like, you know, let's have breakfast one day in the kitchen, say Sunday. And so I'm like, wait a minute. It sounds like he's never seeing his parents, but surely is everyone out?
How are you anyway?
Oh, fine, we're all very well. Your mother, you remember your mother?
Yeah, I remember, Mum.
She was asking after you just the other day. I told her we'd met briefly in the hallway last Thursday and you look fine. Listen, I've got an idea. Why don't we meet up later in the week for breakfast? Say 8 o'clock in the kitchen, Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds fine, yeah.
It's a date then.
Yeah.
They're obviously a well-off family because Dad's a driving instructor. We have no idea what his mum is, but they have a house in Cumbernauld. Gregory's got a drum kit in his bedroom. And they have all these electrical appliances, and it's a nice house, so they're obviously well off. But yeah, I guess they just never see each other. Gregory's obviously out spying on nurses most nights.
Yeah, or up in his room playing the drums. That's the thing. Like, there's a lot of little funny, very quick scenes. You know, like when he gets out of bed in the morning in his pajamas. And sort of opens the curtains and then plays a wee beat on his drums, and then we cut to like a different scene, and then before he goes out to meet Dorothy, it's the same thing. It's sort of strange. Like I was trying to figure out what the intention of those little quick scenes were. You know, and the scene when he's listening to, he can't sleep and he opens his window at night and he can hear cats meowing. So he starts meowing, and then it cuts to Diane, who's in bed already reading her book, and she sort of does the sort of dog head. You know, when dogs hear something, they sort of tilt their head, and then, do you know what I mean? It's just so surreal, but in quite a subtle way. You know, it's.
But then that's just Bill Forsyth.
Yeah.
Like, it's full of surreal parts. You know, I mean, Local Hero is exactly the same, and I agree that scene when he's howling and meowing and howling, and then you see Susan, not Diane, Susan.
Sorry, Susan, of course. Sorry, Grogan.
You're thinking of Trainspotting, are you?
Yeah. I'm always thinking of
when
Trainspotting.
When you see her smirking, but I think that's this a few little scenes interspersed throughout with Susan, and it's almost to lay breadcrumbs of, you know, and she smirks. She knows it's Gregory. She's probably heard him do it before.
Yeah.
And she kind of smirks as if to be like, oh, Gregory. Because she likes him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they've put that in, and I really like that about the film. They don't establish the character of Susan effectively until the first date. You meet her a few times along the way. You know, she asks Stevie about the ingredients. You see her with Dorothy.
Yeah.
You see her just a couple of times, little fleeting glances, and I think it's well done. They don't establish her as like a big character as such. It's just kind of, here she is, and you kind of already recognize her and know she is, but then you get to know her in that time.
Yeah, there's the scene when Andy was in the canteen when he's telling her how that, like, when you sneeze it comes out your nose at 100 miles an hour. She's eating her apple. You know, she just sort of packs up and leaves the room.
And then she repeats that fact to Gregory later on in her date.
Yeah. I mean, had I been like 14 or 15 when this came out and saw the film, you know, like I would be thinking about Claire Grogan a lot, but in a very romantic sort of way, not in a dirty, you know, in the bathroom with the door locked kind of way, but you know, I could have seen myself sort of creating a fantasy where Susan would think that I had a nice laugh. You know,
right? Let's get this Grogan loving out the way so we can actually speak about the film. So you love Claire. You mentioned in your intro the lovely, 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 lovely Claire Grogan. You have a bit of a thing for Claire Grogan, don't you?
There's something about Claire Grogan that even now, she and she says she's done a fair bit of acting, famously Altered Eight, but there's something really down to earth about her.
Altered Eight? Altered Images?
Altered Images, sorry. I'm thinking of the dance.
You're thinking of Alternate.
Alternate, for goodness sake. Altered Images, and she's done a bit of TV presenting as well and things. But she's just, I listened to her being interviewed on the Rockin' Tours by Gary Kemp and Guy Pratt, and she still just seems a really down-to-earth person. And, she's been like a bit of an international star, especially with Altered Images, But she still seems like quite cool. And the thing about Susan in the film, for like teenage boys watching the film, it's fucking rough being a teenage boy. Especially when if your pals start kind of pairing off and getting girlfriends, and maybe you haven't got a girlfriend, all your pals seem to have them, and girls are sort of intimidating, and teenage girls can be a bit prickly, as we know. And there's something about Susan who's just really nice and friendly and sort of accessible in a way that you could just chat to her and have a laugh with her, and there's no kind of... In the scene with Gregory and Susan on their date in the country park, there's nothing like at stake as such. It's not like this date has to go really well, because Gregory makes a bit of a fucking cunt of himself, that like dancing, lying down kind of thing. That brave
genuinely
or...
one of the most fucking beautiful parts of the film, Greg.
I know,
she is into that. She gets him.
But that's my point. But that's my point. So Gregory's either completely fucked it at this point, right? Or he's just pulled an absolute masterstroke, and it turns out that Susan is so cool that she's into it. Do you know what I mean?
Throughout the film, Gregory, the scenes you see Susan, like, you never see him really interacting. There's the one part with Stevie, and he says something about add a bit of sugar, and that's all he says to her.
Yeah.
He's fixated with Dorothy, and he hasn't noticed Susan.
Yeah.
So when Susan arranges the date, and that's the one thing that I'm like, Gregory, really? When you turn up and she's like, so do you want to go out on a date? And he's like, let me have a think. And he goes and sits down and thinks for a minute. You're like, really?
I know.
Really?
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay. And yeah, it's bumblingly awkward to begin with. And you can tell, like, I think it's such a beautiful scene. It's so well written when they're walking and following, and she's like, I like your jacket. And he's like, oh, thanks. I like your skirt.
Yeah.
So thanks. I like your shoes. Oh, thanks. I like your hat. It's so awkwardly beautiful, but so well done. And even towards the end, like when they, finally get together, they're kissing on the doorstep, and she says, like, I'm glad you stopped kissing me like your auntie. And I think it's just such a beautiful way of like the first date and the awkwardness and the conversation. And yeah, Gregory's an awkward teenager, but I think it's just so beautifully written and so well done.
Yeah. But then that whole time of your life when you're, I guess Gregory's supposed to be, 15? Maybe 16?
I think about 15, 16.
Yeah. If you remember being that age and starting to go out with girls and things, it's an anxious time because you're kind of second guessing yourself. You're very, very self-conscious. Gregory's none of those things. You know what I mean? Well,
yeah.
It doesn't seem to be. But let me ask you a question. So when you were at high school, around the ages of 14, 15, did you have a girlfriend?
We covered this in the first episode because I did listen to this back.
Oh, did we? I can't remember.
We kind of did. Yes, I didn't really have a girlfriend as such. I had a few girls, but as I'd said, if you all go back and listen to episode 2 of the podcast, but I'll rehash it now for any new listeners. I was a little bit of a kind of different character because I was heavily into drama, and when I was like in third year, I was the lead in the school play, and that meant I ended up hanging out with all the sixth years, and I then continued that for the rest of my school life. I hang out with the older kids, the older kids. And yeah, like a lot of them took me kind of under their wing, and I wouldn't say I had girlfriends, but I was never short when I went to a party of a wee snog or fumble. So, but never really, I didn't want to get, held down, man. I just wanted to be loose and be able to go to parties and snog who I wanted. So yes, that was my kind of instance. But unfortunately, there was, if I look back now, yes, like I told this story on the first episode, but I do remember there was a girl who, let's call her Claire because that was her name. And I know you told a story about a girl called Claire on that episode.
Yeah.
I really liked her and I did snog her, but like I was 13, she was like 70. But so it's never going to work. Like it's not going to be a girlfriend thing. It was just a little random like couple of snogs at parties because, you know, she'd have been embarrassed to be kind of seen, although she wasn't. Like she did, you know, like me, but not probably, it would never have worked anyway. Yeah. What about you? I know, because I listened to that episode today, so I know all about it, because you told it.
Well, no, I mean, I never had a girlfriend at school until I was like sort of 16, and that was the only time, and it was sort of at school that I had a girlfriend, and there was sort of back-to-back girls, but, you know, I remember, like, there was always, like, a few, especially, like, in 4th, 5th, and 6th year, there was always, like, a few couples that would just always sort of wander around the playgrounds or wander around the social area holding hands. They'd just always be, like, together, or with their arms around each other and stuff, and, you know, I remember you'd be stood there in a group of boys and somebody who you knew or maybe on the periphery of your friend group would walk by kind of holding hands with some girl that he was going out with, and everybody would sort of kind of scoff, would talk, kind of mutter to each other, but I think probably we were all pretty jealous. Really, I think we would all have liked to have wandered around holding hands with a nice girl. Like Dale, who I mentioned earlier, he started going out with a girl when we were in 6th year at school called Cheryl, and they wandered around holding hands. But the thing, and I used to take the piss out of him for it, the way they held hands was the whole sort of finger linkage. You know what I mean? When the hands are all together. Oh, yeah, we used to make a lot of fun out of Dale. But I think we're all a bit jealous. We'd all like to have a wee girlfriend to kick around with.
Because you were standing in the playground with orange fingers from eating your Wotsits, and he was coming back to class with his fingers smelling like he just had a packet of Scampi fries. So,
she did have red hair like her.
Speak about the film. So Gregory, it revolves around the school football team. Gregory gets ousted of his position. He ends up having to play in goal, and Dorothy, who is an emerging female football talent, ends up taking his spot in the team as like the striker, effectively, or the fielder. And everyone in the school is in love with Dorothy and are taking photos of her and selling them in the toilets and in other places. And yeah, that's effectively the whole film. It revolves around Gregory being in love with Dorothy, but she's stolen his place on the football team. And quite progressive to have a female footballer back in 1981.
Very progressive, actually. And she's not a bad player either. I read that Dee Wallace trained with Partick Thistle to get ready for the role of Dorothy. But it leads to one of the great scenes where...
it's Dee Hepburn as well. It's not Dee Wallace.
Oh, sorry, that's D.T.'s mum. Yeah, Dee Hepburn. It leads to that great scene where Gregory's in goal, having usurped his pal Andy, who's been bumped out the team, who was the previous goalie, who's behind the net, sort of, and kind of talking about how wrong it is to have a girl on the team and everything, until she scores the goal. And he does a complete U-turn on his feelings about girls in the team, and then Gregory gets outraged when the opposition players start running over and hugging Dorothy as well. She scores, patting her on the back. It's brilliant.
Oh, they're patting her on the back. They're giving her a kiss and everything. That's why he's upset. Everyone's hugging her. Everyone's all over Dorothy because of her heroics in scoring the goal.
Yeah,
and it's great. And I think the character is not one-dimensional as such, but okay, let's be honest, acting isn't the best. However, a lot could be said for that, a lot of the characters in this film.
Yeah, that's
what makes it, but that's what makes it so likeable and so quaint and so kind of homely. I love that. And I think there are the scene she has with Jake Darcy when he's teaching her, you know, the pivot to move and
the trap.
It's really good. I think it's really well done. There's nothing seedy about that. You kind of think when he comes into the changing room, be like, where's this going? But it's all about football for him. There's nothing seedy about it. There's nothing sexual. He's just genuinely trying to help, and I think that's a really lovely scene.
He's actually very good in it, Jake Darcy. He's a bit of, his character is sort of a bit of a figure of fun, especially for the other two teachers played by Alex Norton and John Bett. He sort of tries to ingratiate himself a bit with them, and they sort of don't take him too seriously as the PE teacher, but he's a little bit oblivious to it. As you say, he's just all about the team.
But that's it. He's all about the team. There's nothing there. Whereas the other teachers are obviously getting up to no good. As Alex Norton, looking like a young Phil Collins, is saying, like, are you still getting those poems for wee June? And he says, well, you'll get put away. Yeah. And then the other teacher takes a bite out of a cake which obviously with a cherry on top, which meant to look like a nipple, and says, 16-year-old redhead, and bites into the cake. Like, it's like, you don't get away with that nowadays. You couldn't put that in, could you, nowadays? That's very of its time. Yeah. It's funny. I laughed. It's innocent, but is it innocent? Not really.
I think it's just different values. I mean, there's the scene when all the workies that are working outside the school are whistling at the girls as they come out, which again, through the kind of modern lens, probably not acceptable, but it's acceptable in the 80s.
A lot was acceptable in the 80s, mate. A lot was acceptable. Gregory is assisted by his friends, and we have Andy and Charlie, who are obviously going to Caracas. Again, first kind of viewing in terms of realising that Charlie doesn't speak the entire film until the very end.
Yeah.
He is very much the silent Bob of Cumbernauld.
He is.
And comes out with a wonderful word of wisdom. Mm-hmm. So they're basically trying to get girls, and then they decide they're going to go to Caracas because they've heard that the ratio is like 10-1. That's like, do you remember the urban myth of, I don't know if it was an urban myth, but when we were younger, that like Nottingham University had like 5-1 female students. So everyone was applying for Nottingham University.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was definitely of the time. Now, this reminded me, and I read about this because I was like, wait a minute. And it's very similar to a storyline in Love Actually, where Chris Marshall's character goes to the States because he's heard women. Richard Curtis has said that Gregory's Girl is a massive influence on his writing career. So I think he has kind of stolen that storyline a little bit for that part of Love Actually. So nice.
Sort of elaborated it a bit,
He is also assisted by Stevie, who is an aspiring chef. Great role as well. He's kind of worldly wise, lends him his white coat, and is running quite a donut and cake operation to give to the headmaster, and also selling them in the toilets, which... That is probably my favourite scene in the film, the toilet scene. Gregory goes in the toilet. The first thing you see is this 12-year-old boy smoking a pipe.
I know. I've written that down. I don't know if I noticed that before, but for some reason on this watching, it fucking really made me laugh. It's just the way he he looks like really distinguished, but he's about 11 years old.
Then you come through the toilet and they're selling photos of Dorothy. You can buy 2 different sizes of print. There's a little sign there that says coming attraction, naughty night nurse. And just such a subtle, it's never referenced. It's like you have to be watching the film to see it.
Yeah.
But this naughty night nurse sign, and it's such a reference to the very first scene and one of the last scenes as well. Yeah. Because obviously it's going off that. Yeah. And then of course we have, them selling the cakes off the fucking cistern of the toilet. And it's genuinely just, if you want to kind of wrap up Bill Forsyth in a scene, it's almost that scene. Like a kid smoking a pipe, selling cakes off a toilet, selling photos, and then a conversation about relationships and serious stuff. It's just all encompassed in that scene, and it's fucking wonderful.
So one of the movie sort of orbits the football storyline, how Gregory first sees Dorothy for the first time and everything else. And it made me think to myself, obviously we've done a few of these over the last 7 or 8 months. If you were picking your ideal 5-a-side team with our favourite Scottish actors, who would your who would your 5 be? So you can you can have first pick.
Living or dead? Like, can I pick like an ultimate, like almost like a FIFA dream team type thing?
Yeah, like a WrestleMania All Stars.
Okay, I've got first pick.
You can have first pick.
Okay. Oh fuck. Right. So Scottish actors. They have to have been on the Swally, I'd presume. Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Or not necessarily. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. Goal. I need someone big. I need someone wide.
Nimble.
I need someone who looks like Ali Maxwell. I'm picking Ian McCall.
McCall in goals.
Ian McCall in goals.
Yeah.
Ian McCall from Rhapsody Nesbitt and 100 other things. But he looks a bit like Ali Maxwell. I'm picking Ian McCall in goals. Yeah.
I can see him leaning against the goalpost having a fag when all the action's in the second half. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. Who are you going with?
Michelle McManus in goals for me.
She's not a fucking actress, is she?
She's done a bit of acting, is she not?
Okay. Oh, so it's a mixed team, is it?
Well, yeah. Well, why not? It's just, we've got Dorothy there turning out for the boys' team. I think we can have some ladies.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. I need a defender.
My choice of Michelle McManus didn't land quite as well as I hoped it would there. But anyway.
Yeah, because I know why you've picked her, Greg, and I'm trying to not allude to why you've picked her. So, because that's quite offensive. So I'm just leaving that slide.
Nimble.
I need someone in a defence, okay. Someone resilient, someone who's not afraid to go into battle, someone who's not afraid of anything. I'm taking Pollyanna McIntosh.
Pollyanna McIntosh in defence. I could see her. We've seen her in 2 very resilient roles in 2 horror films. That is playing, what was the home invasion one called again? My mind.
White Settlers.
White Settlers, that was it. So I need somebody who's not afraid to do a big sliding tackle, who's going to use their body, maybe stick their elbows out a wee bit. I've got to go with Guardian of the Asylum Seekers, Rory McCann.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a big towering. I can imagine him almost like a Yapstam type player.
Yeah, I can imagine him doing the sort of fills that Graham Souness was famous for, when he would dive in, getting good air, studs first on 2 feet, and then get up, pointing at his own shin. I could see Rory doing a bit of that.
I can get on board with that. Okay, right. Okay, midfield. I think I'm having 1 defender, 2 midfielders, and a striker. So I need a midfielder. I need a little midfield general. Mm-hmm. Like a Gordon Strachan, or like a Roy Keane, or like a little nippy, like a Billy Bremner type player.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick the late, great Brian McCarty.
Yeah, I can see McCarty in that role. That's a good shout. Yeah, it's a good shout. So who am I putting up against McCarty? I need somebody who is probably quite durable. McCarty, I think McCarty's going to want to get in amongst it.
He's going to get fucking stuck in. What he lacks in ability, he makes up for in fucking heart and tough tackling. When you take your socks off, you're going to have a fucking stud rake down your shin from McCarty.
Yeah, for sure. I saw a shin pad cracker. Right, so I want somebody who is going to be durable and resilient. So I think I'm going to pick Tommy Flanagan. I could see him holding McCarty off there. They look like they're a wee bit sort of cut from the same cloth.
Yeah. I get that, yeah. Okay, I need someone... You know what? This could be classed as cheating. Right. However, I don't care, because he definitely counts.
Okay.
I'm taking, in my second berth in midfield, ex-Greenock Morton player, Martin Compston.
Okay, so in that case, I need somebody who can stop the young Compston in his tracks, somebody who's going to get into his head. The natural choice then has to be Tony Curran.
Oh, great choice. Great choice.
He's going to psych out Compston. He's going to appeal to his tender-heartedness by pretending to have a terminal illness, maybe. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, I think Curran could stop Compston. And we also know that it's got good ball control, Curran, because famously the last scene of Mayflies, he does some keepy uppies and scores a good ball off the volley. Good goal off the volley, rather.
Okay, my last choice, my striker. You can veto this if you want. because it could be quite tenuous. However, and I fucking hate to put him in this team, Jackie McQuillan, a.k.a. Ali McCoist.
McCoist up front. I mean,
you can veto it if you want, because technically he's not an actor. He's been in one film.
Oh, he
you
has
can
acted.
veto it. I'll be happy.
No. You let me have McManus in goals. Like, the least I can do is let you have McCoist. I mean, we know that he's going to hang around by the goalpost anyway. You know, he's not going to get in amongst it that much. And I know that Big Rory will fucking break his legs, so you can have McCoist all day long. But then, who's my striker going to be? You know, I was thinking of somebody who I thought was probably quite quick. Probably somebody who maybe runs with their elbows up to kind of keep the defenders off him, maybe nimble. And my first thought was a young David Heyman. I could see Heyman running with he's a slight guy, but I think in his pomp, probably quite fast. He does play a football. Oh no, he doesn't play a footballer. He plays a guy who shags a footballer's girlfriend in the Play for Today play, Just Your Luck. But yeah, I can see Heyman there. I can see Heyman holding some people off, like being maybe perhaps a bit misjudged. You know, expectations might be low for him, and then he's got good sort of backup from Curran. I'm going to go with Heyman, a young Heyman, obviously old guy now.
Young Heyman, yeah, of course. I'm taking fucking prime Ali McCoist. I'm not taking Fat Sally now. I'm taking prime Ali McCoist.
yeah. Fat Sally.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, old Heyman's probably pish at football now, but maybe quite handy in his day. But then the one thing that I didn't ask you to prepare, you need to have a coach. Got to be somebody in the sidelines shouting encouragement or abuse. Potentially, depending on how the team are playing. Who would you pick? I'm so
torn between two people. Fuck it, Brian Cox.
Yeah, Cox would be that. I mean, if you're having Compston, I don't think Cosmo would pick Compston on his team, and if he did pick him, I think Compston would be like too
not
scared.
After the fucking bathroom door.
Exactly. I think if he did pick him, he'd always have his eye on Cosmo the whole time, just in case. You know, he'd be so nervous about disappointing them again. So I would have to have Cosmo. I think Cosmo would be a good guy. I can see him there in the manager's jacket, moustache, wee bit of frost on it on a winter's day, watching his five-a-side team.
So the Nicky select is Brian Cox as coach, and we have a team of Ian McCall, Pollyanna McIntosh, Brian McCarty, Martin Compston, and Ali McCoist. And we have Greg select, which is coach of James Cosmo, and it's Michelle McManus and goals, Rory McCann, Tommy Flanagan, Tony Curran, and David Heyman. I mean, I think you're getting fucking spanked.
I think I'm getting turned over. I don't know. I can see Big Rory doing a good bit of sweeping. I bet Rory's quite quick for a big chap. Surprisingly fast. Surprisingly quick on his feet.
Surprisingly fast. I'm sure he is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And if he can't win the ball, he's just going to fucking knock you over, isn't he?
Right, so we've spoken a bit about Gregory's friends. However, we haven't spoken about Douglas Sanahan as Billy the Window Cleaner, a friend of the podcast who likes our posts. And I don't know if he's ever listened, but he does. He likes our posts regularly. So, Douglas, if you listen, get in touch and say hello.
Yeah.
A brief role, but fucking amazing as Billy the Window Cleaner. And such an iconic line. If I don't see you through the week, I'll see you through the window.
Yeah.
And wonderful kind of character. Like, he just turns up, and obviously an ex-pupil, that female teacher is very happy to see him.
Yeah.
And he's telling his life about the window cleaner and stuff. And I love the little scene that he has with Madeline when he offers her a fag.
Yeah.
Outside the school.
That whole scene's great because he's turned up to meet his old pals. He's got his good gear on that he's had to wash 80 windows to pay for, or however many windows he's had to wash to pay for his new jacket and his good gear and everything. And Madeline's just hanging about, obviously waiting for Gregory. He sort of feels compelled to have a conversation with her, so he starts it off by offering her a cigarette. But that's again, like in perhaps clumsier hands, there could be a whole sort of undertone to that scene, but you just accept it. It's not like you never for a minute think that Billy is trying to fire into Madeline. Do you know what I mean? It's that surreal sort of Forsythian kind of universe.
Yeah, but then the one line, it's in the next scene when they're all walking home together and Gregory leaves Madeline. And I think it's Andy that says, about Madeline, she's a 10-year-old with the body of a 13-year-old.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Yeah, that's a shame.
That's one slight kind of mark on this film that that's not okay at all.
No.
And anyway, let's move on from that.
But the ironic thing is that Andy is supposed to be a 15-year-old with the face of a fucking 29-year-old. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, what my granddad would have described as a well-lived-in face. Robert Buchanan's coupon.
That line is a shame. However, let's go to something that I think is quite nice and progressive for 1981 is when Gregory is in the home economics class and he's telling Stevie that he's in love. And he says, is it a mature woman? No, it's someone from the football team. And Stevie's kind of fine with it. He's like, have you told anyone else? Maybe it's just a phase. Is it Andy? And it's so kind of nonchalant and matter of fact. And then the way when he says it's Dorothy and then he describes her with the hair and the teeth. It's such a beautiful little kind of clumsy speech from Gregory.
Who is it? Is that a mature woman? Did you wash your hands?
Don't be crude. Someone in the football team.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you told anyone else about this? Probably just a phase. Who is it, Andy?
No, it's Dorothy. She's a girl.
Yeah, I mean, again, there are a few, I guess, unacceptable sort of lines and scenarios in the film to some extent, but it's also in a lot of ways very progressive because to your point, when he thinks that Gregory's in love with somebody from the football team, there's not even like a hint of homophobia when he thinks it's a guy. You know what I mean? It's just like, you might get over it, or something like that. There's no sort of pariahing of Gregory because he thinks that he's gay, because he's got the wrong end of the stick.
And if you think about 1981, there's a line that the I can't remember the character's name, but the photographer effectively delivers when him and Gregory in the dark room, and it says, in a million years there'll be no men, no women, just a world full of wankers.
Yeah.
And how apt is that? 40 odd years later, it's developing that way, isn't it?
It is. But then that's the thing with Renton says a version of that in Trainspotting when they're out in the countryside, doesn't he? I don't know. I wonder if Irving Welsh has maybe taken a little bit of that from Gregory's skill. I can't really imagine it doesn't really sound like the sort of thing Irving Welsh would do. It might just be like a sort of coincidence.
It might just be serendipity. Subconscious.
Yeah, a bit of serendipity or something,
Of course, I've mentioned on the previous episode, but we can't let it go unpassed that, of course, towards the end, when they go on the date and they go to Capaldi's chip shop, which was, of course, a real chip shop owned by Peter Capaldi's family.
Yeah.
With his lovely, elegant hands. So
yeah, I did try and see
worked there.
I did try and see the actor who hands the chips over to see how elegant his hands looked, but he didn't really get a good chance to examine them,
I don't think it was Capaldi. So famously, this was filmed in Cumbernauld, and you obviously have that was your old stomping ground. You were back there a couple of years ago or quite recently. Has it changed much from the film?
No, it's not changed at all. The film it's mostly filmed in an area of Cumbernauld called Aberdeen Hill. There's a couple of scenes. Because famously Cumbernauld has the town centre, which has been voted a number of times the ugliest building in the UK. For me as a kid, I've got a lot of fond memories of the town centre because, there were one or two good toy shops there, the one or two nice cafes and stuff when my dad used to take me there as a little kid. So, the Cumbernauld town centre in the mid-80s will always have a place in my heart. But there's a scene that's filmed on top because the car park's on the roof. I think, I can't remember which scene it is, but there's a scene that's definitely filmed on the roof. I think it's when they come out of the cafe, Gregory and Madeline. That's on the roof of the town centre. And then the famous scene where when Gregory's waiting for Dorothy for the date, in front of the clock. The clock is actually the clock from the old St Enoch train station that used to be at the bottom of Buchanan Street in Glasgow before they knocked it down and built a shopping centre there. They saved the clock and it's still there. You can go and see it. And apparently I read as well that the phone booth where Carol changes into her 80s finery when Gregory's waiting for her. When they were taking the old red phone booths out, there was a bit of an outcry from the local residents. They wanted it put back, but they had to put a new kind of version of it in because unfortunately the one that we see Carol getting changed in was taken away at the scrappy before the appeal could be granted. So, but yeah, and you know, for listeners overseas, like Cumbernauld is a sort of archetypal British post-war new town. There's a lot of experimentation in Cumbernauld. You can see that, you know, in terms of like communities, the way that some of the flats and houses are built, you know, I don't think there's some of the architecture I don't think you would see anywhere else in the world. The residential architecture, I mean, it's just it's the sort of like 1950s idea of what the future would look like, you know, back then, I think. But you know, it's a good town, Cumbernauld. It's my dad lived there for a long time. My sisters grew up there. I spent a lot of time there. And the fact that it's immortalised in this film just makes it all the more special.
Couple of questions for you. Is this the single best cinematic tale of growing up as a teenager? And I mean from our perspective, because I don't know, like, I know we have quite a big American audience. I don't know how realistic things like The Breakfast Club or 16 Candles or even American Pie later on are. But for this to be made effectively like 14, 15 years before I was going through the same thing, it resonated with me at the time and it still kind of resonates with me now. Is this the kind of best description of that, or are we just taking that as like a kind of, because we're Scottish and because it's a Bill Forsyth film, or are we taking it as that fact, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a bit of that for sure, but I think, you know, there's a real honesty about it. You know, because the thing is, I mean, I remember, you know, when we touched on it already, when I was a teenage boy, it felt like, you know, famously people say that girls mature faster than boys, and I think that's true. But, you know, it certainly resonates with me, this film, in that sense, because, you know, when you hit a certain age as a teenager, girls just, they become, you know, I think you sort of put them on a pedestal because obviously you're going through puberty and everything else, but girls seem to have it all together. You learn as an adult, I mean, you know, that you find out that they didn't. The girls were kind of floundering just as much as the boys were, but at the time it doesn't seem like that. And the thing about this movie is the girls are, you know, they're organised, they're mature, they're pulling the strings, and the guys are kind of bumbling around like Gregory, or they're talking about girls, or like Andy and Charlie, they're trying to start conversations and relationships with girls in the most awkward, cringy way. And there's a lot of like reality in that, despite the fact that, as we've mentioned a few times, the sort of universe of the film is quite surreal, but it's honest, I think. You know, that portrayal of teenage boys and the relationship with girls, there's a real honesty to it, I think, which I don't necessarily think you get. I think American Pie sort of strives for that honesty, but it's not so much about having a girlfriend, because one of the characters in American Pie has a girlfriend when the film starts. American Pie is just about having sex, you know, like a load of virgin boys that are dying to have sex. You know, in this film, although there is the scene at the beginning where when they're perving on the nurse taking her clothes off and things, they don't really talk about having sex. It's about meeting women. That's meeting girls, meeting women, getting a girlfriend.
Yeah, it's about having a girlfriend. Yeah, It's not about, that's something I forgot to come back to earlier, because I think you mentioned something about having sex, and it was like, that's not what this film's about. It's about having a girlfriend, and sex isn't really mentioned. The only person that mentions sex is Billy.
Yeah.
And he says he's done it 11 times, which I don't know if he has.
I can't believe that.
But you're right.
I think Billy's watched Confessions of a Window Cleaner.
Well, that's exactly it. This would have come out probably just around about that time or just after that time. And you're right. I think the women know what they're doing. They're in control. They're the ones that are orchestrating everything. The boys are just teenagers. They're immature. They're just talking about tits, bum, fanny, the lot. That's what we did when we were 15, 16, kind of thing. So I think it is a good interpretation of this.
Yeah. I mean, even the adult men are like boys as well. I mean, there's the quote, I can't remember, is it maybe Carol, where she says to Gregory, you're worse than my dad. He's old, and at least he's got an excuse for being a prick.
Yeah. That's very true. Very true. And that is kind of, it's a weird thing. Like, it's almost like a Benjamin Button thing in this film, in terms of the kids. Madeline and Richard are the smartest people in the film, effectively. They're the one in control. They know what everything's going on. The teenagers are a little bit kind of unsure, and then all the adults, apart from, I'd have to say, Jake Darcy's character, he seems actually okay. Like, the rest of them are a bit childish in a way, in terms of the teachers and stuff. So, second question I would say is this your favourite, or is this the best? It's a two-pronged question. Favourite and best Bill Forsyth film? We've covered. We've only got one left to cover on the Swally. We've covered all of his Scottish films. We'll cover this one twice, so I guess that counts.
Yeah.
Like, what would be your favourite and the best, in your opinion?
I think it's subjective, obviously. You said, in my opinion. For me, his best film is Local Hero, because it's sort of polished, like if you watch That Sinking Feeling and then you watch Gregory's Girl, it's a bit more polished, and then Local Hero is a bit more polished, and then by the time you get to Comfort and Joy, it's not as good a story as Local Hero, but in terms of as a movie and everything, it's a bit slicker, I think. It doesn't have as much of the sort of side kind of scenes and conversations and that surrealism. It sort of very much focuses on the story. So it's not my favourite. I don't think it's the best. For me, I don't think it's the best Bill Forsyth film. Personally, it's my second favourite. It's my second favourite Bill Forsyth film, I think, for sure. I just, Local Hero is hard to beat.
Yeah.
What about you? How do you feel about it?
I kind of feel the same. I think Local Hero probably is his best film, because it's more cinematic and more out there, but it still retains the surrealism that you have. For example, like the scene with like Ricky Fulton and Alex Norton, like in Local Hero, is just a perfect example of the fucking bizarreness that he's still able to instill. And you're right, Comfort and Joy doesn't have that kind of little bit mental stuff. For some reason, I fucking adore Comfort and Joy.
Oh, I do. Yeah,
there's something about it, and I don't know if I can pick between the three. I will agree. Actually, I think Local Hero probably is the pinnacle. I think Gregory's Girl probably is number 2 behind that. In terms of my favourite, I think I don't know. I kind of don't want to watch Local Hero too often, because it's so special. I don't want to get sick of it. And I think it's the same with all of them. They're just, fuck it. They're all just wonderful masterpieces that we can just put in a box and just leave and bring out whenever we want to.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask. Yeah, that was my 2 questions in terms of that.
So there's one thing that we've not spoken about yet, I don't think. And we're going to come back to him. But it's Chick Murray.
Oh, yes.
there's something just about, it doesn't matter what he's saying, but there's something about Chick Murray's voice that really, at worst, makes me smile, but generally just makes me chuckle. He's when he's playing the piano and the young kids are kind of peering in, and he's like, "Away you go, you young boys." It's just his voice.
Off you go, small boys.
Oh, that's it. Off you go, small boys. So I thought, and I'm not going to do it justice, but obviously Chick Murray was a very famous comedian in the UK, not just in Scotland, but in the UK. Quite a unique kind of turn of phrase in comedy, which, if people hearing me read them are just going to think, well, that's not funny. But if you hear him saying it and his delivery of it, it's very, very funny. But my favourite one is what he says in his stand-up. My father was from Aberdeen, and a more generous man you couldn't wish to meet. I have a gold watch that belonged to him. He sold it to me on his deathbed. I wrote him a cheque for it. Post-dated, of course. And the only other one that I'm going to read, and again, this is very much of its time. It's a sort of humour that went over well back in the days when he was on the stage. But he says, my wife went to a beauty parlour and got a mud pack. For 2 days she looked nice, and then the mud fell off. But I mean, as the headmaster in this sort of gentle, funny, often surreal movie, perfectly cast, putting Chick Murray in there.
I forgot, and I didn't read it on my research again for the second time, but when I listened to the first podcast, the song he's playing when he says, "Off you go, small boy," that was just Chick Murray fiddling about with the piano.
Yeah.
And Bill Forsyth overheard him one day and was like, "Can you do that for a scene?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And he did it. And then he billed him for the music rights.
I think his agent, his agent found it because it's his own composition, isn't it? So they had to pay him.
So I ended up having to pay him just for this little thing. Did you think, and I couldn't get over this, like, it's Chick Murray, but for some reason watching it again, because I haven't seen him for so long, well, and last time I watched this, it's Claude from The Apprentice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit like that. Yeah. It is a bit. I mean, the scene when he's talking to Steve about the buns, and it's as though they're talking about something incredibly serious. The way that Chick Murray, I mean, yes, good idea. It's when he asked if they could have blackcurrant jam, and he's like, yeah, it's no problem. Oh, okay, good. It's just so funny.
It's like they're planning a bank heist or something.
yeah. It's like, it's a shame that we don't see a wee bit more of him because. But then is it a shame because he's only really in a couple of scenes and almost runs away with the film, almost. Maybe a bit more of him would have been too much. To your point,
I think one of my last points is about the soundtrack, which it's just like late 70s TV jazz type music, which I love. And apparently the soundtrack has never been released on, to be available. And I would love to have it because it's just seedy kind of TV jazz music, which it's beautiful.
It's sort of like, it's the sort of music you'd expect to hear like in the Fine Fair when you'd be helping your mum do the shopping, I mean, it's literally, that opening music and closing credits music has been stuck in my head all week. I can hear myself whistling it and things. And it's never really sort of got in there before when I've watched the film. But there's something about the style of this film and the music in particular, like the opening music, that it really, like, the music in particular just really takes me back to being a wee boy and watching like STV and some of the stuff like Stookie and stuff like that, that was sort of low budget and just sort of got some session musicians in to bang something out, with a very, very thin brief.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I really like the music to this. I'd love to get it on the soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm sure with your dexterity, you could probably find it. You can now navigate the internet pretty well, can't you?
We'll see.
Although there is one thing I want to mention. I know we're getting close to the end of the podcast and the categories, but a fact about this film that fucking blows my mind. So the budget, like, they're not sure. There's like, Wikipedia says that the budget was either £200,000 or £189,000. The box office was 25 million international. 25 million quid it's international. Amazing. I mean, that is fucking absolutely amazing. Hey, there's some good. Craig Grogan's got some good anecdotes about going to America to publicise the film with Gordon Sinclair and stuff, and I think they had to record the soundtrack, like the spoken soundtrack again, because the accents in the original recording are a bit too thick for American audiences. But Just amazing, brilliant. Like, what a success story.
No, it's wonderful. And I think and I mentioned this on the first time we watched it, but I love this. It's such an amazing trivia fact, and it's such an amazing thing to, for any aspiring filmmaker or anything. Although you wouldn't need to do that now. You wouldn't need to do that now because it's all on digital. But Bill Forsyth had written the script for Gregory's Girl and wanted to make it and couldn't get funding. And he was working as an editor at the time. So what he did was, when he was editing films, he would save effectively the fag end of the film, like the thing that hadn't been used, the offcuts, the unused film, and he saved all them up until he had enough to make a film, and he made That Sinking Feeling, and using those offcuts just stitched together to make a film, and on the back of that he got the funding to do Gregory's Girl, and look at that, it made fucking 25 million. It's incredible that happened.
And apparently, David Putnam, the famous British producer who produced Chariots of Fire and stuff, Bill Forsyth asked him if he'd produce it, and he said no because he thought it was too similar to That Sinking Feeling. And then, of course, regretted it. And then, so that's why Putnam produces Local Hero, because he missed the boat on Gregory's Girl.
That's almost similar to the story of them approaching Oasis to do a song for the Trainspotting soundtrack, and Noel Gallagher saying, I don't want to do a fucking film about trains, fuck off. And he's like, and then I saw, it's like the best British film of all time, fuck.
Yeah, fucked it.
Yeah, fucked it.
So,
I don't know. I think he's done okay. I don't think he's fucked it. I think he's done okay.
Yeah, I'm sure he's done okay. But the first time we did Gregory's Girl, we didn't have our coveted Swally awards.
No.
Now we do. So, shall we put it through its paces?
Let's do it, Greg. What have we got first?
Okay, so normally the first award would be for the best pub, but because the film was about teenagers, there's obviously no pub. So that takes us on to the James Cosmo Award for being in everything Scottish, which there's quite a few to choose from, but I think I know which one you've landed on, because I think we've landed on the same one.
Yeah, of course I'm picking Alex Norton.
Oh,
I picked
Dave Anderson.
Oh, did you? Oh shit, yeah, true. Yeah. Oh, he's a good shout as well, but no, I've picked Alex Norton.
Yeah. I think Darcy is a runner-up for sure. Yeah,
he has to be very close third. Yeah, but no, I went with Norton. Oh, funny. Yeah, we're different. Yeah, Dave Anderson's a good shout though.
Yeah, and he's very good in this. So the next award is the Francis Begbie Award for gratuitous swearing. So there's not a lot of gratuitous swearing as such in this. There's a wee bit of swearing. What did you go for?
I went with Gregory telling Richard to piss off.
Yeah, I went with it's not exactly gratuitous swearing, but I went with if the line if God wanted girls to play football, they'd have put their tits somewhere else. Okay. So the next award, it's a bit of a slam dunk, this one, but the Ewan McGregor Award for gratuitous nudity.
Oh, well, it's the nurse at the beginning, obviously, isn't
naughty
it?
Nurse.
Yeah.
The naughty nurse. The naughty nurse who wasn't aware that she was being naughty, although she was getting undressed in front of a window with a light on, so.
Oh, it's a bit like your try not to get a boner videos that you were watching earlier.
Listen, I didn't try, there wasn't like videos, right? Just after the whole freckled couple debacle, that was the type of thing that was appearing in my X, formerly known as Twitter feed, which is why I turned off my account. I might reactivate it because I like looking at Twitter. Okay, next one then, the Jake McQuillan Award for your teazoot. Not a lot of overt violence in this, but I'm interested in what you went for.
Gregory taking the comb off the lad in the toilet. That was the only thing I really had, like the only real violence. But yeah, you could say some of the football like tackles and stuff. But yeah, I went with Gregory taking the comb off the lad in the toilet.
Well, I went with Gregory taking when him and Dorothy were doing a bit of practice, and he takes the ball in the bread basket, and he sort of crumples. That was my choice. Next then, archetypal Scottish moment.
I struggled with this because it's just so Scottish. So I actually went with Cumbernauld because it was a new town, kind of a new setting, a new beginning, and I went with Cumbernauld as being the archetypal Scottish moment.
Okay.
What about you?
I went with girls being better at football than boys, given the success of the ladies' national team compared to although the men are now in the Euros, so maybe that's not quite as in vogue as it would have been a couple of years ago. But you know, I was quite pleased with myself coming up with that one again.
No, it was good. It was good. I give you a little golf clap there. It was good.
Yeah, like putting McManus in goals didn't land quite as well as I hoped it would. The last award then, who wins the movie for you?
I have put John Gordon Sinclair because obviously it's his film and he's the lead role, and it led to better things for him. You know, the next year he was on Top of the Pops singing with the fucking Scotland national football team. Like, he wins it.
Yeah.
However, also, and I think I've only said this once before, and I can't remember what episode I said this on. I'm not going to go back and listen. In a way, episodes. We all won because we got Gregory's girl.
That's true. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I agree. It'd be very difficult to award this to anybody other than John Gordon Sinclair. But
you want to give it to Claire Grogan, don't you? I don't mean the award. I mean... I mean the award, sorry.
Yeah. No, I wasn't going to say that. Well, this has turned into a bit of a Greg is a pervert episode somehow.
You started it.
Yeah, I regret it now. I mean, it's Sinclair's movie, but there are a lot of actors that are reaching for it. You know, I think Jake Darcy is fucking brilliant in it.
Yeah, obviously. I'd agree with that, yeah.
Chick Murray is brilliant in it. Even Dave Anderson, I mean, he's only on screen for a few minutes, but it's brilliant. His exchange with Gregory is absolutely brilliant, you know. But yeah, 100%, it's definitely Gordon Sinclair's.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so
that's our 100th episode.
That is our 100th episode, and that was Gregory's girl. Now, that was a kind of special choice episode, effectively, because it was our 100th episode. I picked 99, in which we did The Party's Just Beginning. So that means that 101 is your choice, Greg. So why don't you tell us what we're going to be covering on the next episode of the Culture Swally?
Okay, so I'm going to read you the plot, the synopsis, not the plot, but the synopsis of the film first.
Okay.
I'll tell you about the film. So the synopsis is, a 35-year-old teacher has fantasies about a 16-year-old student. His politically motivated lessons inspire two students to plot to overthrow a businessman they suspect of trading in torture equipment. Of course, I'm talking about the 1999 sequel to Gregory's Girl, Gregory's Two Girls, just for you.
Don't make me do it, Greg. I don't want to watch that film.
I've
just watched Greg.
You said, I really hope you pick Gregory's Two Girls. That's like literally the only reason that I picked it. Was as a gift to you, my bestest pal.
Don't make me watch that. Don't make me watch it. Okay, on the next episode of the Culture Swally, we will be doing Gregory's Two Girls. Fuck's sake. It's fucking. Yeah. Right, I've got to come up with a beezer for the next one after that. Fucking hell.
Yeah. The chances of us covering Gregory's Two Girls again in our 200th episode, slim to none. I feel confident in saying, but
if we make it to 200, I'm going to pick it just for a laugh. Right, okay. Right. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoyed that, our 100th episode, and I hope we kind of did Gregory's Girl justice again.
Yeah.
I think we missed a few things that we covered the first time, but you can go back and listen to episode 2 of the Culture Swally. I listened to it today. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's pretty bad, though. However, we have improved since then. Thank you for listening. If you want to follow us on the socials, you can. You can follow us on Insta at Culture Swally Pod. You can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Swally Pod, or at Try Not to Jerk Off or something. Try not to get a boner. And if you want to get in touch with us for anything you've seen in the news or anything you'd like us to cover, or if you just want to reach out and say hello, you can email us, on cultureswally@gmail.com. Greg, we have a wonderful website as well, don't we?
We do, and it's all updated. I updated it all, especially for today. You can find us at cultureswally.com. Links to more than 100 episodes, because we've got our Sean Connery special and one or two other specials on there, but 100 plus episodes at your disposal. You can hear Nikki and I talking about our favourite Scottish TV and cinema films. And I think it's important that we say a big thank you, because there's a few listeners like Strong Henry in Canada, Andy who have been with us for a long time and always are very nice to us on the socials and very engaging. But, if you're somebody who's listened a lot and you just haven't written in, then obviously we thank you too. If you're listening for the first time, thanks to you as well. Go back. You've got a big catalogue to go back and listen to. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think, you're right. We've got Henry, we've got Andy, we've got many others that have reached out to us over the last few years. And most recently, Olivia, a listener who did some artwork for this episode, which we are going to put on our Instagram as well. So thank you so much, Olivia, and thank you to all our listeners. 100 episodes, it's amazing. But yeah, we'll still be here for a while. We're gonna continue this, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, Greg. So I guess all that left to be said on this episode is, if I don't see you through the week,
I'll see you through the window.
Off you go, you small boys.